So joining me on today's show, the vocalist hails from Maryland. His band, Any Given Sin, has been making waves throughout rock with one anthem after another. Their song Dynamite put the band on the map in 2015. And in the past few years, they have reached #1 on Sirius XM and the fan-driven Biggins Countdown with singles Another Life, Insidious, and currently The Way I Say Goodbye. It's soaring up the charts. I've played it on my show. It's an amazing song. I've seen the video a few times with the fire and everything. It's pretty cool. And I'm excited to welcome to the Badass Podcast on video, on Zoom with me, the vocalist of Any Given Sin, Mr. Victor Ritchie. What's up, man?
Evan, nice to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for utilizing your time and moving your schedule around to be able to fit me in. I know the past few months we've been trying to do it, and we finally got it in today. So today's Monday, day after Easter. How was your Easter holiday?
I was good. Just dinner with the family. Went out to a friend of mine, just had some drinks and stuff. It was good.
That's good. Yeah, I spent some time with a friend of mine, and it was just an amazing weekend here, temperature-wise, in the 70s. So
nice. Yeah.
Pretty sweet. So you guys have the new single, like I mentioned earlier, The Way I Say Goodbye. Heard it on Octane. Like I said, I played it on the Rock Hard with Evan J. Thomas show. Talk to me a little bit about how that song progressed and evolved from, the past year or so. Obviously, being the pandemic, you kind of finished it in that time.
Right. So we went to record that, I think, in November. And we had some of that written before we went to the studio, but a lot of it fell together there. And then released it in, March 26th. So we're about a weekend's been doing really good. So we're pretty excited about, throwing out another pandemic song, because Insidious was there. It went #1 on Octane, like Biggins. It also #1 spun. And so we were trying to keep that momentum, even with no touring and everything going on. So, yeah, definitely excited about it.
And speaking of the no touring, obviously with the pandemic, it's kind of hurt everything in every realm of the music industry, especially live shows and just trying to promote you guys. You guys are everybody's trying to stay relevant somehow, whether it's through live streams, whether it's through promotion of their own music, doing what they can. What have you noticed in the past year that has worked best for Any Given Sin and you guys?
I think definitely putting out these songs on the radio right now it hasn't really slowed us down. Obviously, we could have been further if we were touring, but I feel like we haven't slowed down. And a lot of that has to do with we have great Octane presence. They've been really great in pushing us and keeping us going, for sure. We did a live show with them. It was a 3-song show. That went well.
It was January, wasn't it?
I believe so, yeah, around January.
That was with, who else was on that? Wasn't that Saul?
Saul, and then Avoid.
Yes, dude, that was amazing, because I interviewed Saul back in January too, so it's pretty cool that I got both you guys, within my podcast in a few months. But yeah, that was an awesome live show that they did on Octane.
Right, yeah. So they've been real helpful. Like, if not for platforms like that, and like a lot of bands would be pretty hurting right now, for sure.
So with the pandemic, how do you think live music and just doing things going forward has changed? Because obviously everybody had to kind of regroup and was like, oh shit, now what do we do?
Right.
To stop touring, that all ended. A lot of bands didn't get together for like 5-6 months because of the pandemic, because you didn't know what to do. So it was like, oh, it's coming back last fall. Didn't. It's coming back this spring. Didn't. Now it's supposedly in the fall things are coming back. Tours and festivals are starting to be announced, but you still never know if it's going to end up happening. So how is your view toward the future of not just your band, but of just the music in general going forward? How do you think that has changed or will change?
Well, it depends on how quick or where people can tour, because even when we start touring again, everybody's going to be doing it at once.
Yes.
So it's not going to be like people are spread out like they usually are and always have been. So everybody's going to be fighting for the same venues, and a lot of venues have closed down, especially smaller ones for more bands trying to get established like us who need the smaller venues to headline and stuff at. A lot of those have gone away. So more will pop up. It's going to be weird for years, I think. And I think the only thing you can really do is just keep hitting the online presence. Tour where you can, how you can safely until this is all over. I think everybody's trying to figure out what to do, but the only thing you can do is just keep keep writing, keep putting out music, and keep trying to get more fans whatever way you can.
So how has that worked with you guys in the band getting together? I mean, was there a lull in there because of the pandemic? And then now you guys are kind of like getting back together and, oh, we got to just bang this shit out and just keep moving.
Right. There were lulls, but we were always like, all right, what's the next thing? We got this thing with Octane, and we're going to go to the studio now. We're going to shoot a video this month. And, so there's always little things we were talking about, like, what are we doing next? But for the most part, there's been lulls and just basic rehearsal, writing we're still doing. But, I mean, it's just been more like you always have to see it, because when the pandemic started, we were like, oh, by September, we'll be back out. We'll be able to go. You know what I mean? And then that didn't happen. Then it's like, oh, by January, we'll be going. Oh, no. And then so now it's like, well, maybe summer. So everything keeps moving backwards, and you're just trying to, stay with where you're going, try to keep ahead of it if you can. But.
And any chance you think festivals might become more prevalent because of the pandemic? Because that way more smaller bands, like not as big bands, can kind of jump on these to kind of be seen with other large bands without having to jump on a 3-band tour and kind of, doing the buy-on and all that bullshit. But we'll
Sure.
get possibly another time. But you just think that festivals will become more open because of this whole pandemic. Like you said, you got small venues closing. It's not going to be as easy.
Right. Right. And that may very well be. It just depends on how many promoters are out there wanting to start a new festival. That may become, if that becomes lucrative for people, more lucrative than just hooking up venues, then I imagine that's what will probably go down, and we'll all do it, wherever we could play. So, but yeah, it's a really good question. I don't know that I have an answer for it, but I wouldn't mind the festival model is great. It's just at the same time, any band, you make a lot of your money on merch. So you're competing with every other band at that festival for merch. Same with these other venues. If you're on a 3 to 4 band tour package, you're competing with 3 other bands and the headliner to sell your merch too. So you've got to weigh all that out. And if you've got capacity issues where you can only get half the people in maybe to this venue, then it becomes all of a sudden not worth it for you to even go. And fiscally speaking, you know what I mean? So there's all the things I think everybody's got to weigh out in a much different way they did before the pandemic, for sure.
And to kind of talk about small venues versus festivals, being who you guys are, you guys have been in the game for 6-7 years or so, at least popularity-wise. Would you guys rather play a smaller venue to a smaller crowd and kind of, nail your genre, or would you rather play to a festival, kind of get your name out to thousands of people? Obviously, there's different situations at work for bands, right, depending on which one. But what do you like best? Do you like the quaint, or do you like the openness?
I think performance-wise, I like the openness. But then on the sense of just if you go headline a small venue, most likely everybody's there for you. Most likely,
and it's
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's more intimate.
So you've got your fans there, so that can be cool. It's kind of both. Like, I like a big stage to see a big sea of people. That feels really awesome. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it could be just as cool to have 200 people that really, really love your stuff. So it's I don't know. It's a trade-off sometimes. I think you stand to make more money with your intimate crowd off of a show,
merch and everything. Yeah.
Right. But then, yeah, you get the chance to make more fans when you play with the big, festivals or on the big stages and stuff. So,
and for me, yeah, in the music industry and being a journalist and photographer and interview and doing all that, I love going to the early bands, because that's where I find a lot of bands just to even do this. But like the band Dead, the first time I ever saw them was they opened up at noon on a freaking Saturday at Chicago Open Air. Gemini Syndrome opened up at Sunday on noon at a Chicago Open Air. These are bands that now are like getting really, really popular, and just because they started on the early shows. And that's kind of how I see some of these bands kind of establishing themselves even more, is through that.
Absolutely.
So there's that. And then I'm also going to say, I'm going to refer a article that I actually read earlier this morning as I was doing my research. I saw that Chris Jericho, you know who he is, from Fozzy, recently said in an interview that he is scared for the future of rock and roll because he doesn't think there are a lot of new rock bands out there. And many of today's new bands don't look like they could possibly be a festival headliner. So that's a very interesting take, being who he is, what he's done, the fact that he had a podcast or radio show on Octane. I would like to hear what you have to say about his take of current rock scene.
Sure. I mean, he could very well be right, but it's kind of, who knows? You know, bands don't get invested in as heavily as they did back in the day. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I mean, take the 80s, take the 90s, take how much money would be invested into a band. At this point, you have to do it on your own before anybody even wants to talk to you.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So it's like, maybe you don't have this gigantic production, but at the same time, where has it come along where you've been able to create that? You know what I mean? So I don't think there's a lack of creativity or a lack of ability to have like big headliner rock bands, not at all. But there's so many of us in the internet, and you have all the fans of rock spread out across everything that you can grab now. There's no band that you could just be like, I'm going to throw $1 billion at this band. It's, well, they're not going to make $1 billion back because you have all these other fans in every other category hitting the internet, getting their music from different places than they used to. So I don't know. I don't think his opinion is necessarily incorrect, but I also don't think it's because the bands aren't as good. You know what I mean? Per se.
Yeah, like you said, it's more investing, like people like, not just me, but your regular fan just investing in a different band rather than, you know, your Metallicas and your AC/DC.
Right.
Been doing it for 30 years. Another thing I look at too is a lot of those festivals, a lot of those bands that headline haven't had new music out in 10 to 15 to 20 years. It's all a nostalgia thing. So that's what brings people out. And even if they had new music, especially like AC/DC released a new album, how many songs do you think they'll play off that album? Maybe two, maybe none.
It's hard to say, and but that's kind of how the culture of the business and how it affects everything has changed everything. Yeah. You know what I mean? I was kind of talking to somebody else earlier this week about it, just how there are rock stars or stars like there used to be, and I think it's because this fragmenting of which is a good thing, like having all these bands able to get on to the internet and do stuff. It's a great thing, but the consequence may be having these giant Prince like, you know, stars, you know, Michael Jackson big, you know, and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe is the future. That goes away for the sake of variety and more artistic quality. I don't know.
And speaking of kind of the big over-the-top personalities that you were kind of mentioning from like the 80s and Prince, right. There are those social now media things like TikTok that are turning people into stars. I did not want to ever bring this up in an interview, but we're going that route. So it's like, it's almost like TikTok and Instagram and a lot of these live Facebook feeds. You guys are being able to utilize that to show more of a personality, or you can turn yourself into a personality by playing a character like a lot of these people did.
Sure.
You see, because I don't see a lot of bands doing that. Like David Lee Roth was over the top. That guy just did everything. Can you see him in today's age, back then, being able to do what he did on like TikTok or social media? I don't know. But it's like he had the MTV genre and everything like that, but we have this. So it's like, how do we utilize this to kind of market ourselves the best way we can to promote the band and ourselves as a personality rather than just, you know, four guys in a band? Because a lot of people see that. Just four guys in a band that play some badass music, but, you know, you kind of want more of that over the topness.
Yeah, I get that. And it kind of comes down to the band. If the band, you know, was looking to be gimmicky or anything like that, and had that, you know, some of that over the top personality, like, I think that's good for you. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just, I still in the end think it's like, you're just competing with people's time so much now, because everybody's on, you have people on Facebook, but you're also competing with everything else that's on the internet.
Flipping through shit on your phone.
Yeah. It's just, you know, you go back to the 90s, everybody would sit around a radio waiting to hear this next release, like of this band, you know, and there weren't nearly as many bands out there that people knew of, just because it didn't get out. You had to be with the label had to push it, you had to get to the radio stations, had to do that, you know, but the culture has changed and the attention span of people has changed. People would rather hear, I think a lot of ways would rather hear 30 singles than a whole album. You know, 30 singles from different bands on their playlist than sit and listen to a whole album as much as they used to. I'm still like that, and I know a lot of people who are, but I think that's the shift that's the internet has taken music in a sense.
I was gonna say, well, that kind of all started with the whole Napster thing, and
yeah,
that back in the late '90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
My God, am I referencing some shit today? Napster.
I know, man. Well, I'm interested in this whole evolutionary thing.
None of this is on my little research at all, so I just have to tell you that. So yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly. It's like people don't really buy albums anymore, and I forgot where I heard it the other day. I heard it on either a radio station or something that they're like, back in the day, you used to buy albums for like album covers, and
Right.
because the band's name and because the album cover was awesome, you took it out of the vinyl, checked it out, played it, and you heard this amazing sound. Now it's like those albums aren't there anymore. Yeah, there's still bands that do release vinyl for things, which I love because I've kind of bought a bunch of them. And it's like, but people don't seek that out really much anymore, like back in the day. So there's also a marketing way to try to market your band as, you know, whatever it is you need. Like you said, some bands have a niche, some bands have a look, some bands are gimmicky, and then there's just your, you know, hard ass, just go at it band. Right. So I'm not sure where I'm going with this question, but I'm not sure, how do we go forward in marketing, kind of, you know, just overall kind of an outside the box type thinking in the nowadays era? I'm sorry I threw all that on you.
No, you're good. And like that's kind of the immortal question for, I think, everybody.
I've been thinking.
But you got to be true to what you're doing. Like if you have a music out, like I'm making this music, I can't be something that's totally in left field of what it is. You know what I mean? It's like we are what we are. We have to stay where we are. Because I think the thing that'll make people be turned off by a big personality is one that seems fake.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So, you know, you just got to be kind of who you are, and then take that as far out as it can without being fake about it or lying or disingenuous. I think it's a good model, and just hitting everything you can hit across the internet. And then who knows? It still may not work. It's just, but what do you do? I mean, this is the game, and you play it. Whatever the game is, whatever the rules, however they change, you just got to keep rolling.
Well, they change, and they change often, and especially in the past year, it is changing in a really odd way. So I know we're all looking at that. Another article that I recently read too, I don't know if you saw this, it was on Loudwire, that the band Chevelle revealed that they haven't made any money in the past 20 or so years off their albums. So obviously there's other streams of revenue for bands like merch and, you know, tours and doing all that. But what can you say about the music industry, good or bad, that has worked for Any Given Sin?
Well, for us, and everything's a double-edged sword. So we don't have a label currently. We haven't, which means we have complete control of everything. You know what I mean? We get all of our money. We own our masters. We own our brand. Everything's owned. However, you run into a capital issue of you want to boost yourself further, but you don't have the capital to do it. And you're making money incrementally, you're putting it back in, investing it, and you're moving up, but you're not going where you really want to go yet. And you realize that you need more capital. So you sit there and you ask yourself, do I want a label, do I not? How do we get more capital? Without them, you feel like you might stay in the same place, but at the same time, if you go with them, you might be in Chevelle's position as well. And you're just hoping for the touring and the merch. And as we just talked about, touring and merch is a little difficult right now, and we don't know the future of it exactly. So it's a lot of things that are probably scaring everyone in the industry at this point, and making them go, well, why am I on this label? And I'm sure that's what, Chevelle was thinking for the past 20 years.
Well, they were mentioning also, bad contracts and stuff
Right.
like that. And obviously back in the day, there were a lot of sharks out there, but there's even more out there now. So obviously you guys not being signed, I don't know how often you guys get hit up by management companies, record labels, all that shit, just to try to, get your buck, as they say, and try to hold you. I hate to say it, hold you hostage, but you have to do your due diligence and your research like I did on you to make sure that everything's good. So how often do you guys get propositioned, as I would say?
I mean, we've had a few offers over the years. We've had some recently. I can't talk about who, but it doesn't come that often, to be honest with you. Like I'm trying to kind of put this in perspective. Like, we'll put out a new song, and then if that song does well, we might have some hits back from people. But then we don't know if we want to sign ourselves over.
I totally get it. I mean, I work with bands that are like that as well. And actually, the band I'm wearing, Blacktop Mojo, they're unsigned as well, and they kind of run it the same way. They do it themselves, everything. But like you said, it's the whole capital thing. It's all having that money to be able to do what you want to do without the backing of a label. But then the backing of a label kind of could screw you over on, owning your rights and owning the music and owning your image and all that bullshit. So it's a double-edged sword by going with a label or just doing it yourself, because there's benefits and there's drawbacks each way.
But I think the best thing you can do is to kick as much ass by yourself as you can, so that if you do end up at the negotiating table, you have more power there. You know what I mean? You won't get. I feel like a lot of bands back in the day, like way back, you would go back to the 90s, they had no money. And then the label's like, they had no money, no numbers, no nothing. And then they say, I like your sound. I'm going to make you awesome. I'm going to make you huge. They did. But the label got all the money, Yeah,
because they fronted the money or whatever, and then they utilized it for whatever. Then they have to pay it back, and they don't have the money to pay it back. And that's how you lose money in the business. So,
exactly.
So unfortunately, like I said, double-edged sword. You damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So it's what works for you guys, especially. I mean, you guys airplay all over Octane. I mean, the past few years, Insidious is what the song I heard that I was like, holy shit, these guys are like awesome. I mean, I've heard Dynamite before in Another Life, but that was the song that did it for me to be like, awesome, these guys. And I actually have not yet seen you guys live. Of all the bands I've interviewed, I think you're the one that I have yet to see out of 62 episodes.
Gotcha.
How the fuck that's possible, but obviously,
pandemic.
Pandemic. We got to get you guys through Chicago at some point and possibly see you guys here. I mean, I don't know when the last time you were here.
Chicago, I don't think we've actually been through Chicago.
See, that's probably why. So maybe we got to do that somehow. I mean, I do put on shows here, so maybe I can talk with you and your people, and we can figure something out on that.
Cool.
So I want to kind of finish this off here. So you guys have collaborated in the past with John Moyer of Disturbed, who actually has been on the show before, Trevor Kustiak of Evans Blue, and now you guys are working with producer Chris Dawson. So how has Chris helped with the progress of Any Given Sin in the sound?
Well, he's been great in this. He has a lot of it's dynamic ideas, just guitar tones, things like that. We usually come in with a skeleton of a song. I'll have lyrics, some vocals. We'll have it, for the most part, arranged out how we're thinking. And then he also works with Jimmy Beatty as well on some of our stuff. And then he comes in with just, every noise and thing. And all right, try this vocal harmony. And, it's just dynamics and arrangement. And he just makes the song sound way better than it was in my head. So, which is, what you want, I think. And it's just great teamwork, and it's a great environment. And, we love Saul uses Chris as well. And
he's Chris has been popping out some awesome music with bands, so that's pretty cool that he's able to do that for you guys. So looking at Any Given Sin in the next 6 months to a year to 5 years, any EPs, LPs coming out, obviously any tours in the works, festivals? What do you guys
we've got
a short-term and a long-term plan?
Sure. We've got a few tours that have been thrown our way that we're just getting final details on to see what's up. That will be like around July time frame, around Rockfest. So as soon as we have all that set up, but yeah, we're definitely working on the tour.
Because you guys are on Rockfest, right? I saw that.
Right.
Okay, yeah. In Cadet, Wisconsin, what is that, July something? Mid-July?
It's July 9th or 11th. I'd have to look again. I actually don't recall.
That's an epic freaking lineup. I think what's that, 4 days or 3 days?
It's 3 days. Yeah, 3-day
I
festival.
saw that come through my feed last week. I was like, damn. And then,
Yeah.
you guys are on there too, so that's pretty sweet. So other than that, any EPs, LPs coming out, or are you just going to look at the singles? I mean, obviously the singles are working for you guys.
Indeed. We've been looking at the single. We have some other stuff that might not be. We're looking at perhaps maybe one of those two this year. We're not 100%, and I don't want to get anybody excited if they're waiting for it. but yeah, we've got some other works that might not become singles. We're like, well, maybe it's time for a collection here and just pop it out. But that's kind of we're just at the beginning footstep of that. So we'll see what happens.
And any follow-up to The Way I Say Goodbye anytime soon, or you just kind of play that one off for like 6 to 8 months to a year and then kind of go forward after that?
Right. We're looking to get back in the studio hopefully before July and get some more. So there may be another single at the end of the year. It's quite possible.
Gotcha. So I got one more question before we go. You like your hair shorter or longer?
So I like the way it looks longer, but it is a pain in the butt. I would rather take care of your hair.
My hair is a pain in the ass too, because I
can
slice the side of my head accidentally, and you don't want to do that. Yeah, I look good this way, but having that long flowing hair. My son has hair kind of like yours, but straighter, not as long yet. But
gotcha.
Yeah, I used to have your hair kind of back when I was in my early 20s.
Gotcha.
So I had that Crow, Brandon Lee look.
Yes.
Can't see it on me right now. There's no possible way, but yeah, I kind of had that look. But because I've seen you in videos, obviously you had the shorter hair, and I kind of see it a lot longer now. So I'm kind of, is that like just your pandemic hair? Is that what you're calling it?
It's kind of I honestly have not gotten a cut since February last year.
Damn. See, so basically right before the pandemic started.
Yeah. So we're playing it out. It's I like it, but I hate it at the same time. It's a lot.
Yeah, if I was able to have hair, I'd do it. I'd probably do a stupid mohawk, but that's me. But yeah, I can't even grow this shit anymore. But I'm all good. So where can we find Any Given Sin? All over the socials. Where can we find your music? You have a website. You got all that. Nail it down before we head out.
Yeah, sure. We anygivensinband.com. We have merch for sale. Please come over and check that out. Definitely check out The Way I Say Goodbye. Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. You can look us up, Any Given Sin Band, Twitter and Instagram, and then just Any Given Sin on Facebook. And we have links to all the things, all the songs, all the videos on there. So check us out.
Have you guys jumped on TikTok yet?
Nah, I don't know. I don't think I can.
That's not your flavor, huh? You're not going to play, you're not going to sing to Adele or anything like that?
Maybe we should. I mean,
not that I read any interviews in the past or anything, but that's why.
Hey, I love Adele, man. That lady can sing.
She definitely can sing, and now she's single. So I'm single too. You never know. Might work out, but probably not. But anyway, Victor, thank you so much for joining me today. We're at our 30-minute mark, which I was hoping to hit. So
awesome.
There we go. So I appreciate everything, and yeah, until you guys get through Chicago. Hopefully we can get a face-to-face going on here, right?
Sounds good to me, man.
Awesome, brother.
Can't wait.
Appreciate it.